Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the November 14th meeting of the Basalt Town Council. And in a moment, we will get to our roll call, but I got a couple items I want to cover first before we get the meeting launched. One is that tonight we have CMC Business Communications. Bennett Brampson, I think, is going to be calling in if he's not already. But he's got a report writing class with students from all over Colorado who'll be watching the meeting via Grassroots link tonight. So we welcome you, Bennett, and good luck with your students tonight. Hope they can glean something from these proceedings, which sometimes we have a hard time doing. So, we wish you the best of luck with that. So a reminder, access to the town council meetings are possible remotely by clicking into www.basalt.net under the Agendas and Minutes tab. Click on November 14th, 2023 meeting packet to open. On the meeting access instructions page, click on the link to join the webinar. Public comments are timed and limited to 3 minutes, so you can call in and address council remotely. Pam Schilling, our town clerk, will be you'll be put into a waiting room, and then she'll admit you when it's your time to speak, so be aware of that. Another item is there anyone here that is here for the Black Mountain Jadwin development application? Okay, just be aware, we're not taking that item up tonight. It's being continued to November 28th. We're more than pleased to take your comments tonight, but there won't be actually a application review. We provided some initial comments last meeting, and the applicant is digesting those. So,
Well, we still can comment.
Yes.
you can comment during the public comment period in a minute when we'll call for you in a second. So, but there'll be no formal meeting, no public hearing tonight on that item. What else? We have received a lot of correspondence, and I do want to recognize people that have written to town council this past week. These are letters, for the most part, supportive of our downtown improvement efforts. And I won't read them all, but I'll just acknowledge the senders. So Sandy Kuchark is one. I think there are 7 or 8. We have one from Sarah Shaw. We have one from Julie Kolar. We have correspondence also from Eileen Fagan, Sustainable. Charlie Eckert, he's chairman of our Basalt Green Team. We have one from Tracy Bennett, who has the shoe store, a Midland Shoe. Manuel Diaz, they have Mod's Tie House, and we have one also from Michael Horvath and Ben Fierstein. So, and then not least but not last, last but not least, Mike Steiner from Total Cross Energy. So we appreciate that correspondence. Keep them coming. And with that, I would ask our town clerk to call the roll.
All right, let's begin with Dieter Schindler,
Here.
Ryan Slack,
Here.
Angela Anderson,
Here.
Elise Hoddle,
Present.
Glenn Drummond,
Here.
David Knight,
Here.
and Bill King.
Here.
The A-team is present, sir. Thank you.
Okay, first order of business is our consent agenda. We have 4 items. The minutes from October 24th. We have item 2B, which is a continuation of the public hearing on Resolution 38, the Jadwin Black Mountain Development. Item 2C is Resolution 39, resolution of the Town Council approving a grant agreement with the Hope Center for Mental Health Services. And then 2D is Resolution number 40, resolution of the Town Council of Basalt approving an intergovernmental agreement with the Roaring Fork School District for the mental and behavioral health program, Basalt Elementary School. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with those 4 items.
Mayor, I move the town council approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Aye, okay. Consent agenda is passed. So at this point, we will open the floor for comments from the public. We ask that you comment on items that are not regularly scheduled later on in our agenda for tonight. We ask that you come up, limit your comments to 3 minutes, and make sure you tell us your name and address. So floor is open for anybody who'd like to come up and address council.
Am I live? Can you hear me?
Is that on? Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
raise it a little if you want, so you don't have to lean down. There you go.
There you go.
This is really short. You know, this is, I'm going to make the next meeting, and so any comments I have about Jab and Black Mountain, I'll wait until the developer's here. But I just have a question. Is it appropriate to ask you why it was continued or canceled?
I'm sorry, what's the
Is it
question?
appropriate to ask you why it was continued?
Well, our council provided, I would say honestly, sort of an almost overwhelming response to the application with numerous requests for significantly more information. So I think that the applicant was not able to turn that around in 2 weeks, so I think they're just, vying for more time here.
Gotcha. Well, my name's Ed Williams. I live at 529 Emma Road.
Okay,
There.
that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Could you tell us your name, sir?
He did.
Okay, got it. Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Come on up.
Good evening, this is Tobias Monk. I have a house at 388 Sunrise Lane. That's up in Missouri Heights, the Eagle County part. I was here for the Black Mountain, but I didn't catch that it was postponed.
Oh, yeah.
I might not be in town when it actually will be on the agenda, so I thought I'd give a couple of comments about it. I've been involved in kind of public outreach in Missouri Heights when it got to this Ascendigo commercial development, and I'm part of the Keep Missouri Heights Rural. I founded that nonprofit together with a couple of other people to try to preserve the rural nature of this valley. I think that what is going to be proposed is basically constituting a tax on everybody that's living here right now, and that tax is payable directly to the developer. If you look at what they're proposing, this is not net beneficial to anybody living here. There are more, deed-restricted housing units that may be required, but basically that is not enough to even make up for the demand that is generated by the proposed development. So it is net negative. In addition to that, I think the master plan for energy looks at reducing 80% of the current footprint until 2050. Now, what is built there, if it is approved, is going to be around in 2050. So it's unlikely that it can be retrofitted to do anything that is required for it to be doing at that time. So anything built now that is going to exist then should already at this point adhere to the requirements that will be set out for it to be fulfilling at that point. And I think we're nowhere near for them to prove that that is going to take place. Anything that is built now should be net zero in my eyes, but okay, 80% is better than nothing. So I would like to point you to that point, and then it being in a or near a river, I think a density of that in a flood, in basically what I would say is a floodplain, just does not deserve approval in that density. So I will hope to be able to speak. I'm going to be in Switzerland if it takes place on the 28th, I think. But I will try to make time, but thank you for hearing me now.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can call in.
Yes, I just
Via
learned that.
web
Thank you.
So,
It's
please.
going to be lunchtime, my time, but.
Anyone else? Come on up.
I'm Sandy Garchek. I almost got my name right there. You get a letter and me.
I got
I
creative
live
there.
right over here in the spur. and council members. I just want to thank you all so much for what you have made possible for Midland Spur. It's amazing. I mean, it's a transformation. And because you guys approved it, it's fantastic. I mean, the infrastructure, the drainage is fantastic. We don't have to worry about it coming into our garage anymore. It comes down the middle of the street. There's so much less congestion, safe sidewalks, or crosswalks, more parking, landscaping, everything. I mean, new lighting soon, it's coming. But all in all, my point is, it's a much nicer place to live. And I don't want it to be just Midland Spur. I would like Midland Avenue to be a much nicer place than we have now. So I really hope that you will approve phase 2 of the contract to make the rest of this town as nice as Midland Spur is. And I really mean that. It's unbelievable. So please continue, stay with that project, get it done. Let's get the whole town to look
Great.
like it does down here. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Sandy. Appreciate that. Anyone else? Anyone calling in? Hearing none, we will move on to our next order of business, which, thank you everyone for your comments. And we go to our mayor and council reports and comments. So, guys. Anybody?
I'll just, all of council and planning staff should have received an invitation to the West Mountain Regional Housing Coalition Forum, and I just wanted to extend a personal invite for you to come. It'll be from 8:30 a.m. to noon at the 3rd Street Center, and it's going to be talking about basically the findings of the work that's been done to date by a consultant we hired to look at regional alignment and opportunities and constraints. So I'd love for everybody to be there.
Just a brief report, we had our monthly RAFTA Board of Directors meeting last Thursday. It was their second Thursday, so work of the calendar. And not a lot to report. We are in the process of adopting a budget for next year. I showed you last month a couple of graphs that show slow but steady recovery of ridership on RAFTA. We're still down about 28% below the peak of the pre-COVID era, but it is picking back up. What is somewhat heartening is that the hogback route, which goes from Rifle over into the Roaring Fork Valley and up, is like, I think 111%, something like that, of the high water mark pre-COVID. So that one's a very robust route. And ridership in Aspen's down for reasons that not everyone totally understands, but it may be interesting that we may be cannibalizing some bus ridership with WeCycle and e-bikes. So pretty interesting deal, interesting to consider. So, but at any rate, RAFTA's alive and well. We're still substantially down in drivers, almost 15% from the ideal full census, and so efforts are, guys are working double time trying to recruit, and the new housing at the old Way Inn is tracking along and will be ready pretty soon. So RAFTA's doing well. So.
I thought you were going to say that there might be a new relationship between RAFTA and West Mountain Regional Housing Coalition.
Oh, that's another agenda topic we did take up. So RAFTA has decided to join the West Mountain Regional Housing Coalition. So there were two questions. One was membership for $20,000, and then $100,000 ante for buy-down opportunity. And the board decided to sign up at pass on the buy down until there's more specifically known about where the units are, and, you know, there's gotta be, you know, people didn't wanna shoot in the dark, I guess, so. But that's coming. I don't think there's gonna be any resistance to do that. But yeah, was that what you were looking for?
Yes,
Okay.
that's where you were going.
So yeah, we're excited to have RAFTA as a new West Mountain Regional Housing Coalition member.
Cool.
So they join CMC as our second non-governmental member, non-municipal member? I guess non-municipal member.
Glad you reminded me of that. Manager's report?
I have just one quick thing. Ruapo was able to receive a $50,000 grant from the United States Forest Service to help offset our ANS inspections, which is a great addition. I mean, it doesn't cover everything, but it's a very weird thing because with other ANS money, we can't pay actually people to do it. It's a juggling of restricted and unrestricted funds. So
Yeah.
it's a great addition to our.
Do we have any signs of ANS and Rudai?
Still nothing in Rudai, but Highline Reservoir in western Colorado does have mussels, and they did a really big program last year trying to eradicate them, and it actually didn't work, and so they're kind of going back to the drawing board. They have seen some, I don't know if it's the Department of Transportation, but they have opened up some state line inspections. Not at the state line reservoir, but at the Utah-Colorado state line. So boats coming from Powell into Colorado and having some decontamination there at the state line, which has been helpful. But it just shows that, you know, the minute these mussels get in our tributaries and our waterways, it's not a very good thing. So
Yeah,
I'm glad we continue.
Zebra mussels.
Yep. So the fight is still going, and they had another successful year. So.
Brian, did you have anything?
I do have a couple things.
Okay.
First, I was just going to let folks know I had an interesting meeting today with the State Forest Service. Chris Beiser, who's our arborist, is helping people in the Hill District and wanting to sort of expand on the private property or within town mitigation. And, you know, there's been getting questions from those folks about what to do about the land that's just outside of their yard that gets onto state land, mainly the state wildlife area. So we had an initial meeting with State Forest today just to kind of talk about maybe some projects that we could do. The town of Basalt, of course, does have some open space up on the hill here that we might be able to do some type of project up there. But we are going to follow up with CPW the first week of December with the State Forest Service and just kind of gauge interest. As you know, we lost a lot of pinyon and juniper in the fire. But now, of course, we're dealing with the Ips beetle. And so those trees are stressed generally because of 20 years of drought. And so one of the best practice approaches is to remove the dead or stressed trees so that you can sort of avoid the spread of the Ips beetle into the entire, forest. So anyway, more to come on that, and we'll also invite Angie from the Roaring Fork Wildfire Collaborative too, just so that we're all singing from the same sheet of music there. But I think it was a good first meeting, and we'll kind of see where we can go with our wildfire mitigation from the town level that might complement what we're doing regionally. Did you have a question? Oh, perfect. And then tree lighting, just wanted to, I know that went out, it's on our website. We had put out a communication to the community, but December 1st and 8th, December 1st is down in Willits in Triangle Park. And then the December 8th is going to actually change venues over to the River Park. And that's from 4 to 6, so that should be a pretty exciting event this year. And we are kind of changing things up a little bit, and we do have a fun Basalty Christmas tree decorating contest in a Christmas movie theme. So That has gone out, and I think you can get information from that on our website. And then there's also menorah lighting on the 7th of December, and that's from 5 to 5:30 in Triangle Park, and that's the first day of Hanukkah.
Very good. Thank you for that. That takes us to presentations. So first up is the third quarter 2023 financial report. Doug Pattison. Very good. You're supposed to wear that on your sweater.
What's that?
That name tag, you're supposed to wear it on your sweater.
All right. James is going to direct traffic here on my presentation, so you should have this in your book. So we'll start off with the graphs, just a graphical depiction of our revenue and expense. This is of the general fund, and these are through the first 9 months of 2023. So what this would present is our sales tax continues to be about 2/3 of our revenue, followed by property tax at 16%, which is primary drivers of our revenue. We've got some cats and dogs, our permits and other taxes and whatnot. That's essentially our staple of revenue. And then looking at our various departments that we're running services through, Public Works leads the way at 30% of our expenses throughout the general fund, followed by the police department, public safety. And then our admin, then planning is fourth in line. So that's the top four, like 80% of our expenditures. So looking at page 2, these are actually the numbers versus a graphical presentation. You don't see this a lot, so I'm just to refresh your memory. That first column is the 2022 actuals that were incurred from January 1, 22 through September of 22. Second column are the actuals for the first 9 months of 2023. And the budget is the annual number for the year. Later in this presentation, I've got you got me at the top and then at the back end of this meeting is a budget amendment for 2023. This does not include this budget amendment that I'll be presenting in towards the end of the meeting. It would be presumptuous to assume that you would approve that budget amendment, so I did not do that in this presentation. Nonetheless, what this would tell you is that our revenue from our general fund through the first 9 months is $6.8 million, compared to $7 million where we were last year at this time, and 74% of our budget. So we're not pacing our number. We've known that for a bit, not way off, but we are sales taxes trailing receipts, which I've messaged principally all year. We're not going to make that number, and you'll see that when we do a budget amendment here towards the end. Moving through some of the other items of income here, license and permits continues to be under a little stress. Our building permits are down. We did get some pickup in October, and we actually have a permit now for the storage facility over Building 4 over by the high school, Building 4. That's like $102,000. They haven't pulled it yet. They haven't broke ground, but when they do, they'll trigger another $100,000 or $200,000, $102,000 in revenue, which will get us home, but I don't know whether or not, I have no way of influencing whether they pull that permit this year or not. So if they do, we'll make it. If they don't, we won't. It's just that simple. So anyway, that's kind of the headlines on the license and permits. Interest continues to be a robust number. I have no doubt that we'll make our revenue number even as we adjust it upwards for a few things that we'll learn later in this evening in the meeting. Looking at the expenses, no department continues to be under any sort of stress. We are running under budget across the board. You'll see here that really we budgeted, if you go to this third column, 2023, the budget for the calendar year is that we had a use of funds proposed that when we started this thing at $1.5 million, that we were going to be spending $1.5 million more than we took in. We're going to be adjusting that down to about $1 million later in this meeting. And even with that, we're not going to be throwing a loss of a loss. We're not going to have expenditures exceeding revenues by $1 million. I think we're going to be at a break even. And that's principally because our capital expenditures to date are running about $760,000 under than what we spent, or what we plan to spend. So all in all, I think the general fund's in good shape. I will say that when I started this thing about a year ago, you know, there was a lot of discussion about Midland and the work that was being done on Midland, and I know that those discussions continue. And I mentioned to Ryan, I said, you know, I thought it would be a good idea, or not, well, it was a good idea, I guess it was mine, but an idea, is to actually look to see what Midland vendors as a group were going to be earning in a rearview mirror 2022 number to what they would be earning in 2023, to kind of see whether or not the effect of construction was going to have an effect on businesses, revenue-wise. And then there was also concern that there might be some cannibalization of business, and that Willits would be favoring over Midland. You know, that people would go to Willits versus shopping at Midland. So we undertook this endeavor. I have to remind everybody there's a memorandum of understanding that I signed with the state on confidentiality, so I cannot talk about anybody's individual revenue. It's just something that I can't do. But what we ended up compiling was within Midland, all of the vendors, whether you were a shoe store, whether you're a restaurant, whatever you were doing, we compiled it as a group, and then we did the same thing for Willits. And I can tell you, from looking at the numbers through sales through September, which we got last week, through sales through September of 2023, there has been no meaningful disruption to revenue on the Midland Street vendors as a group. Same can be said for that there's no meaningful uptick in revenue for the Willits. You know, numbers can either go up, down, or stay the same, right? Be Hippie goes out of business, Kitchen Collage closes, those numbers are going to go to zero. You know, Bull and Buck closes, that's going to go to zero. Rhino, they come in. There's a lot of fluidity to these numbers, right? But I can say that, and I think actually a good thing to report. And I think that the town has, in my view, in my opinion, supported the Midland Street vendors through the Midland dollars and through a lot of different ways of accommodating changes to the construction schedule. So I just wanted to make that aware. I don't know if you knew that was going on, but that's what we ended up doing. And we'll continue to, that analysis, it's already baked into the database, so it won't be hard to continue that analysis as we go into 2024. And whether or not that is going to be the same thing that we see in 2024 remains to be seen. So
On the building activity forecast, have we already, is Cypress Meadows Phase 5 underway? Do we have building permits in progress for that project?
We have a foundation permit for the first building and a land development permit. So for installation of utilities and road infrastructure.
That's going to be a pretty significant
Yes.
Yeah.
deal. That'll
a lot of
be
that's
hitting
baked
this winter
into
sometime.
next year. We had Lake Modern
Yeah.
was one, BCC. We got a bunch of
Yeah.
things that are still potential revenues.
Okay.
But right now, I mean, the numbers are what they are. That's where we're netting out on the general fund. And I can jump to the restricted fund if there's any other questions.
I don't. Anyone else?
So turning to page 3 here, moving along here, this is again draft graphical depiction of our revenue. And really this is post revenues, our lodging tax and our cigarettes, that's the blue, which is really 53% of the total, followed by REITAs. We have 9 REITAs, and they're accounting for 37% of that revenue. So between 37 and 53, that's really your revenue within your restricted funds. We have some smaller ones that are accounting for impact fees or the three funds that we maintain for the police department, affordable housing, but essentially it's in the REITs and the post. So go to the next page, you'll see here too, that we've, again, 2022 is where we were at this point last year compared to where we are now. We're 75% of our budget on our taxes. We're well over our target for license and fees. You'll see 115% of our actuals are exceeding our annual budget. So there's really no way we're not going to make our revenue number on the restricted. We're in good shape on that as well. And then looking at the expenses, same basic story here. Nothing's under stress. You'll see that we're only spent 3.7 million of our budget of 8.1. We've only, according to this, is only spent 45% of our number. But what this doesn't show, and I didn't mention there in the general fund, is a lot of our expenses are back-ended. All our debt payments are due at the end of the year. We have all our COPs, those payments are going out on 12/1. So there's a fair amount of money going out here in the next 10 days or so that relates, debt service is $900,000, and there's another $1 million or $2 million associated with the COPs. So that together is $2 million. And then we also have the money that we disperse at TACA on dispersing their restricted funds, which was about $900,000. And then we also have some tobacco grants going out to the Roaring Fork School District, which is reimbursing really at all of the levels, elementary school, middle school, and high school. So anyway, you'll see here that we're like way under. We're showing a surplus of 2.1 million to a budget of $1.5 million. So that's like, it's basically a $3.6 million swing. I don't think it's going to be that high. I think we're going to net out being having revenue being in excess of expenses by about $1 million. So I do think we're going to be, again, in good shape on restricted funds. And again, the capital was underspent. We had budgeted 4.2 for post, and we only spent 2.3. So we, spent less on what we had anticipated. And then last,
Can I ask a quick
least, yeah.
Tobacco looks like it's on, on pace. Is that gonna hold up, do you think?
The revenue?
The tobacco tax revenue? I
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
last time it was gonna be a little behind pace.
I think I was probably being a little too dour, but yeah, I looked at it, and we are, some of it, people don't always pay us when they're supposed to.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of remind them at time to time. But we're 500,000 compared to 510 last year, so we're in the hunt.
Okay.
We're not missing that number. Last slide is just the remaining funds. The bond fund is simply the $950 that we earmarked the mill levy to pay our debt service. We have the capital construction fund, which right now essentially is the Midland project. We do have a little bit of activity in the solar project that we're doing with McKinstry. Nothing meaningfully going on with, at least this year, on affordable housing, but I know that there's some activity brewing, and that you'll be seeing more of that months to come. Then we have the water fund, we have in and out, we have 860 in revenue. You'll see that we're really missing the revenue, and that's really tied into tap fees. I mean, look, my tap fees are 26,000 compared to 219. Tap fees kind of relate to our building. You're not breaking ground, you're not paying a tap fee, so we're missing that number accordingly. But the good news is that our expenses are less, and same thing, we had budgeted more in capital than we actually spent. So we're showing a surplus on that relative to the budget. So all in all, I gotta tell you, I continue to feel very confident with these numbers. We're gonna be wrapping up. We got a lot of stuff rolling through the ledger right now with year-end things that we're gonna be processing a lot of the back-end payments on our debt, whatnot. I think we'll end the year in a good spot, and then we'll start we'll present our budget here at the next, I guess it's the next meeting, for 2024. And we're continuing to work on that. I combed through third quarter, feel good about where we're at. We're not gonna have a significant difference between the budget that we'll be presenting next council meeting to what we had previously presented. A few things that are different, but nothing earth-shaking. So, no surprises is what I would say, is what you're gonna see. And then the mill levy, Proposition HH didn't pass. So I think I did take the real estate tax, property taxes down a bit, because there were a lot of people protesting their values, and there were appeals that were held in favor of taxpayers where the actual value of the property went down. So that's gonna be reflected when we do the budget next spin through, and that kind of makes sense, but it's not a seven-figure number, it's a very low figure, six-figure number that we're talking about. So anyway, that's what I got.
All right, thank
So
you.
any questions, or?
Questions, council?
Just a point of clarification, as we move to consider Phase 2 of Midland Avenue Streetscape, no bond funds from the Green Fund or the Affordable Housing Fund have been dispersed for any other reason.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Doug.
There you go.
Good presentation. Keep that money coming in. Next order of business is item 6B. This is More Housing Now. It's a grant opportunity that our town planner, Michelle Tebow, will explain.
Good evening. I'd like to bring this grant opportunity forward in particular for the Parcel 2E property in Willits across the street from Taka. That piece of property was identified in the master plan for a daycare and affordable housing use. And as we are all familiar, Blue Lake has been working through multiple versions of conceptual drawings to do a daycare there, with a very daunting fundraising goal, to say the least. Recently, staff became aware of the DOLA More Housing Now grant, and although it says More Housing Now, it also supports daycare uses. This grant has 2 tiers. The first tier is for planning, so it would be for site planning and design of the building and the entire site. Tier 2 is for construction, which we may or may not decide in the future to go forward for. There may be bigger or better grants to go for, but we can decide that at another time. The Tier 1 application is currently open and it closes December 1st. I've had conversations with Eagle County, who is excited to participate in this project now and would like to contribute to the matching funds required to submit for this grant, which are only 20 grand. So 10 grand from Eagle County and 10 grand from the town of Basalt. And that would get us potentially $200,000 for site planning and design work on the site. That's a big impact. Similarly, DOLA informed us that the strongest grant applications we would have for Tier 1 or Tier 2 would be in partnership with Eagle County and Blue Lake, similar to the award we received at Stotts Mill when we partnered with Picken County and Blue Lake there. So we're excited at the opportunity to pursue this. That being said, getting a site plan done and getting the planning done doesn't obligate us on any timeline to go to construction, but certainly we'll never get to construction if we don't have a design and a site plan. So that's the short and sweet of it.
Great. Is there a match? Do we put up a match for that grant?
Yeah, there's a 10% match, so 20 grand.
Okay.
Eagle County has offered to split that with us, so we would do 10 grand as well.
Do we need any action from council to approve
It was
the,
mainly just direction
Yeah.
from you all.
okay? Sounds,
Good investment.
You need a plan?
this is a thumbs up, this is the old Roman. So, yeah, I think we're all good.
Fabulous, thank you.
Thank you for that. So Jeff the next item is 6C, is ex parte communications training. Jeff Conklin's gonna make sure we're doing the right thing here, so.
You got it. Yeah, it's been a while since we've done any training, and so thought a refresher on ex parte contacts would be a good one. So, and I wanted to start with kind of how that fit in with all of the different decisions that you guys make and the roles that you're in. And so council really acts in 3 different roles, in a legislative capacity, administrative capacity, and a quasi-judicial capacity. And so legislative capacity, this is when you're adopting laws, you're making code changes, you're approving, changes to zone districts, you're adopting the master plan, components of annexation. Those are legislative processes. And then you do administrative things like approving purchase contracts or considering contracts like, phase 2 for Midland later tonight. Components of the budget, adopting the employee handbook, those are administrative type things. And then your third role is one of a quasi-judicial body. And that is really, you are in that role mostly when you're dealing with land use applications, when you're dealing with liquor and marijuana licenses, and, site-specific property issues. And so when you're in that quasi-judicial posture, special rules apply, and those are the rules of due process. And so, where does due process come from? It comes from the Constitution, that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. And so for you guys, you're dealing with property rights. And so what does that mean? What is, due process, procedural due process when dealing with property? It's ensuring that the applicant and other interested parties have notice and a meaningful opportunity to be heard before a neutral and impartial decision maker. And as a quasi-judicial body, it's the ex parte communications piece comes into maintaining that neutral and impartial decision-making capacity. And so your quasi-judicial role, how do you define that act? It's one where you're determining the rights of a specific person or entity in relation to a specific property interest. It's based on facts introduced at the hearing, this noticed an opportunity to be heard. And then the town council applies legal standards to those facts as they relate to the property. And so again, this is mostly in a land use context, but then property rights include, liquor licenses or permits and things of that nature. And so to uphold due process, you can only consider evidence and testimony that are introduced at the hearing. And those come into the hearing through the packet, and then through presentations, through public comment, through things that get introduced in this room. And again, those pieces include, the land use application that then gets part of the materials that are in the packet and there for you to consider. And so what is not potentially part of that, those things that are introduced in a meeting, those would be ex parte communications. And ex parte communications are written or correspondence or conversations that take place outside of this room with where you're being introduced to evidence or things to consider with respect to that application. So, if it can be with the applicant, it could be with the member of the public. And in order for that to be considered as part of your decision on when you're in that capacity, it needs to be introduced as part of that hearing. That allows for everyone to be operating from the same set of facts and the same evidence and making the decision, and it ensures the impartiality of your decision making. So small town, sometimes these things are impossible to avoid. So the question is, well, what do I do if I'm presented with a potential ex parte contact? Say you get, one of you gets an email that says, hey, I see you have this land use application in front of you. I think you should deny it for these reasons. If you get something in writing, one, you should make me aware of it, and then we can allow that to be introduced at the public hearing to make it part of the record, so then everyone can consider it. If someone, either with that email or if somebody approaches you saying, hey, I want to tell you, in person, like what I think about this, you need to do your best to avoid those conversations. And one way, or my suggested approach on doing that, is to let the person know that hey, in order for me to consider what I'm really interested in what you want to hear, but I want to make sure that everyone has the benefit hearing it, and in order for me to consider it in making my decision on this application, it really needs to be presented as part of a public hearing. And so please come to the town council meeting, put it in an email, and send it to Pam as the town clerk. We can get it as part of the record, and then we can consider it as part of our decision-making process. So those are kind of the main high points I wanted to hit on ex parte contacts and due process. These are things I know we've been over, and but it's always good to have a reminder. And so if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Discussion, questions? And it's a good summary, thanks.
Sure.
Appreciate it. So next order of business, council actions. First item up, 7A, is special event activity permit for a food truck to be located at Cassie's Corner parking lot. So, evening.
Good evening, council.
Alec, how you doing? You got this item?
Yes, sir. Town staff has received a special event application for Estilo Salvadoreno food truck to operate at 122 Basalt Center Circle.
Yep.
Our applicant was unable to join us this evening, so I will be presenting on his behalf. Estilo Salvadoreno intends to bring diversity into the community with authentic Salvadorian cuisine that is affordable and quick. The vendor will be open from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. From November 15th, which is tomorrow, until February 15th, 2024, and has requested an option to renew the special event activity permit until May 15th, 2024. Staff has worked with the police department, fire department, and incorporated their comments into draft conditions, which are included in the packet. This is the normal way that we have been permitting food trucks in Basalt. It would be a 3-month trial basis with the option to renew for another 3 months. Notable conditions are that we do require a letter of consent from the property owner. That is included in the draft or in the application materials. A passing inspection from Roaring Fork Fire Rescue Authority, and then again that trial-based approval. Additionally, if we recognize any impacts to public right-of-way or anything that is kind of out of place or impacting the community in a negative way, we do have the ability to, I guess, take away their ability to operate. I will say that our applicant has been very good about working with us. He's been easy to work with, and I think that this will be a good option for cheap food in Basalt that is close to downtown.
Great.
Any
What are the hours going to be? What is it?
7 a.m. to 5 p.m.
So it's a lunch truck for the most part. Nice. Can you describe some of these Salvadoran? No, it's okay.
If I can, I will.
Show up, Bill.
And then, we had, the fellow council had a question about cerveza, whether there would be, no. That's
No
great.
cerveza at this food
No
truck.
cerveza, okay. We got that clear.
It's 2 doors down.
Is this yours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Late, sorry.
No worries. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. We got 3 kids that were home.
Well, how about this? I'll make it easy on you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I move the town council approve Estilo Salvadoriano LLC special event activity permit.
Second. Wow, thank you.
You got 3 kids. You
Oh,
gotta
yeah.
get back home.
Yeah.
So it's been moved and seconded. Do we need a roll call on this guy? No. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, great. Tenemos un poco de preguntas. ¿Puede explicar el menú?
See, we're gonna be doing Salvadorian food, which
Yeah.
is gonna be pupusas, tamales, and panes con pollo. I don't know if you guys heard about pupusas.
Yes.
And tamales as well. Ours is a little bit different than the Mexican style. Ours, we do it with banana leaves.
Oh,
And,
wow.
yeah, and you get steam, which is, to get all that flavor in there.
wow. January, that'll be pretty welcome.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the panes con pollo is like a chicken torta but with a Salvadorian twist in it, which, yeah, you gotta try it to know what I'm talking about.
We're excited.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank
Well,
you for
thank you.
filling the need.
My menu really, yeah.
Well, thank you for bringing it to Basalt.
Thank you.
We're excited.
And thank you for having me too. I mean, I've been here for the past 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I live in this community. I got kids here. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Well,
Thank you.
welcome to the neighborhood.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, next order of business, item 7B, special event activity permits. This is the holiday tree lighting events. Alec?
Good evening, council.
Yeah, I guess there are two.
Yes, so I guess I haven't received an application. I crafted the application for these, for our annual holiday events, annual holiday tree lighting events.
So let me see if I got this. You applied and you approved the application?
You all approve it.
He's applying and presenting. Slightly loaded.
These events are important to this community. It is an opportunity to gather and celebrate one another prior to the coming holiday season. This year, the event in Willits at Triangle Park will be held on December 1st from 4 to 6 p.m. This will continue the tradition of that event, and it will be very similar to what it has been in previous years. This year, we will have Mr. and Mrs. Claus, Christmas carolers, a horse-drawn carriage ride, delicious snacks and refreshments provided by Aspen Mini Donuts and the Lions Club. And we will also be featuring the Basalt Street Horns, which is the school band, I believe from the middle school. New this year, on December 8th, we get the opportunity to host this event in our new beautiful Basalt River Park, which we're all very excited about. This year will be a little bit different in that park. We will be having a concert performer from our summer concert series performing, a band called Alexis, and they will be performing some holiday music for us. The Basalt Street Horns and the Carolers will be there in attendance as well. And additionally, we will have a really cool lighting show, and hopefully some good looking lights on our new band shell and in the park.
Nice.
Our Public Works crew has been working hard to get our lights up in all of the trees in the Basalt River Park. You may have seen Chris Beiser out there on a ladder on all of the small trees out there, wrapping every single little branch. So I just wanted to thank them. We could plan these events as much as we wanted to. They would not be going on without our Public Works staff. So big thank you to them. New this year at the Basalt River Park, we will not be having a carriage ride there due to safety concerns with crossing the street, but we will be hosting Smiling Goat Ranch for a petting zoo, a small petting zoo in the park. We will have Mr. and Mrs. Claus, Aspen Mini Donuts, and the Lions Club Pancake Wagon. Additionally, new this year, we will have the Basalty Tree Pageant. Michelle, would you like to speak on that?
So we'll be starting the Basalty Tree Pageant on December 1st. 12 trees, and we're inviting teams to come and sign up and adopt a tree. It's free. The trees are being repurposed from a landscaping job where they're being cut down that has nothing to do with any of our stuff, but we decided we could reuse them here. And the theme is going to be holiday movies, so it could be Dr. Seuss, it could be National Lampoon's holidays, something funny. We'll have prizes, cash, stash, sash, or whatever we wrote in there. But anyway, it's coming out, and it's a way to keep activating downtown during the winter season. The trees will stay up until the end of December, so there'll be places to come and take your family and visit your tree and say, look, our team did this one, and and do some fun stuff. We'll also have some cutouts in the park as well as part of this to go take holiday pictures and put your face in the hole and all that fun stuff. So it should be good.
Wait,
Yes.
are the trees gonna be in the park or are they dispersed through town? I don't know.
They're going to be in the park.
Okay,
Since they're cut trees, we have to prop and stand them and
gotcha.
do fancy stuff. So they could be confusing for a minute, and that's why I wanted to make sure everyone knew they're repurposed trees. We're not freshly cut down for this. And then they'll leave at the end.
Great.
Town staff has worked diligently with police and fire to ensure the safety of these events as well. And we hope them to be a really good time and a good community event. I'd like to invite you guys out to join us.
Excellent.
If you have any questions.
Questions, motion, comments?
I just have one quick question, and maybe I'm just not reading it correctly. It's page 56 of the packet. Is that just the security guards, the way they walk around the, or is that like, it shows like a different route around Willits?
Yes, that will be for the horse-drawn carriage ride.
Oh, okay.
So we do have folks out there that will be directing traffic during the event for that.
Looked like a
And it
little
is
race.
the same route that we have done in previous years.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, comments?
Mayor, I move that the town council approve the special event activity permits for the holiday tree lightings.
Second, been moved and seconded. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Thanks a lot, Alec.
Thank you.
So, we move now to item 7C, resolution number 41, series of 2023. Resolution of the Town Council of Basalt, Colorado, approving a contract for Phase 2 of the Midland Avenue Streetscape Project. So this will be presented by Catherine Christoph, Dave Detweiler, and Michelle Tebow.
And Mayor, I will recuse myself.
Certainly. David?
Thank you, Council, and Mayor James has a presentation. Love to. So tonight we're bringing to you an update on the Midland Streetscape project, as well as 2 contracts for the Phase 2 construction work, as well as the landscaping work. Tonight we have our full team of representatives that have been on this journey with us, both the design team and the contractor. You all know Dave Detweiler, Mitzi Rapkin, our outreach guru, Heather Henry and Elise Wolf from Connect One, Stephanie Helfenbein and Nancy Nickel are here from Silver's Engineering. Shay Stutzman along with his team, including Wiley Button and Jenna Fuchel are here. And then we have Steve Bergstrom with Rocky Mountain Custom Landscapes, who's here as our landscaping contractor. We all wanted to be available for questions for you all tonight as we move forward on this next phase. So next slide, please, James. Staff has been working with this team on the design and construction since the spring of 2022. In March of 2023 of this year, Council approved a construction contract for Phase 1 of the project. At that same time, after hearing from the public, we initiated our RFP process for Phase 2 construction. Based on those received bids and to keep the overall project on schedule, Council expanded Stutzman's contract to include the Midland Water Main and associated services. And you can see where these various phases line up on our timeline here. Since receiving those proposals for Phase 2, the team before you has been working through a value engineering process. And today, you'll see we're at the gold star, if you where we're presenting to you the contracts for the Phase 2 work, which will all occur in 2024, wrapping up prior to the start of 2025. Next page, or slide, please. As a reminder, the initial project concept was outlined as part of the 2020 master plan and did not include any work on Midland Spur. As part of the Basalt Forward process, a rough order of magnitude was developed and published that estimated the project to be at about $11.5 million. This was based on 2020-2021 construction costs. At that time, it was expected that the project would be funded up to $9 million with bond proceeds, and then the balance of the work would be funded through other sources. Next page, please, Jane. When the design process began, it became clear that the improvements to Midland Spur would create a more connected and cohesive project. And that addition has included 35% more water line, 83% of the storm system was included in the spur, and 100% of the sanitary sewer system. This addition creates a more resilient project through creating redundancy in the town water system by connecting the main to our new Two Rivers Road main that was installed just a few years ago. It connects Midland's storm system to the town's forebay and provides treatment for the new for the stormwater before discharging to the river. And in replacing a compromised section of the sanitary sewer and bringing it out of the groundwater, we've reduced the infiltration. And having realized the benefits of including the Midland Spur, we move forward with phase 2 and the VE process. Next slide, please, James. So as mentioned earlier, hearing the public input that we go through a bid process for phase 2. That was conducted in the spring of this year and in the summer season. This is a very difficult time of year to get accurate and tight bids, and therefore both of the bids received included allowances for large portions of the project. And knowing this, the VE process was initiated to reduce some of the costs from that initial phase 2 bid of around $11.2 million. Through the VE process, we have reduced the remaining phase 2 costs to about $6.5 million, which you see here. And we are also planning to account for additional $1.2 million that would be available in contingency moving forward. And I think you wanted to speak to just the timing of that bid process.
Yeah, one of the things we always try to do when we're mapping out a project is bring it to the subcontracting community at the most optimal time. And where we live in Western Colorado, summer, most of the subs are really busy and they tend to not give you a whole lot of attention. And I think we saw that in the bids we tried to take in the spring, early summer, that it was tough to get them focused on what we were trying to do. But now that we've pushed it into the fall, when they're really looking for, what's my project for next year? You know, what do I want to get on the books for next year? I think that really helped us. I think our team, it was interesting. There was no complaining throughout this whole group behind me as we endeavored to take, you know, a huge percentage out of this project. Everybody just rolled up their sleeves, and Sopris and Connect One, whatever changes the subs were recommending, Stutzman was recommending, everybody was fully on board. We'll make what's smart, make what's efficient. So it was fantastic to watch.
Great.
Yeah. So on the next slide, we explain what some of that value engineering included. So the elements of the value engineering process where we realized the most savings were in the redesign of the pedestrian connectivity at the east end in front of the church. We made some material choices. Initially, the travelways and parking areas were concrete, and we changed that to asphalt. Initially, because we have a curbless design, we need to create a tactile differentiation between the pedestrian way and the vehicular way, and we had looked at steel truncated domes, which are what you typically see in ADA crosswalks, those steel nubs, if you will. Those are very expensive. Steel is very expensive right now. It's one of those materials that's been really impacted. So anyway, we made the transition to tooled concrete for some savings. We also transitioned from concrete pavers to brick pavers, and you see a screenshot of some of the areas that will be brick before you. The initial design was always aspirational and what we were hoping for, and we knew that a VE process would be inevitable, as it is with truly all projects. So this was a process we always intended to embark on. And we are also in our close relationship that we have with Stutzman Gerbaz and working with them, we're able to realize further efficiencies in the constructability, where we're also able to realize some savings. Next slide, please, James. So tonight, we have two contracts for you to consider for that value engineering work. The first is with Stutzman Gerbaz for the Phase 2 Midland construction at just over $5.9 million. And just as a reminder, we will also have the 1.2 in contingency. We additionally, to realize some additional savings, we will be contracting with the landscape contractor directly and also purchasing site furnishings directly to eliminate some of the overhead costs that we would incur should that be under Stutzman Gerbaz's scope. It's a similar approach that we took to Phase 1. And I think Dave had an estimation of, remind me of the numbers, sorry.
We saved about $149,000 in general conditions and markup that we would have paid on those components had we left them in. So it was a very smart move to take those on ourselves.
So that's what we're presenting this evening. Next slide, please, James. And so to remind you again, with tonight's contracts, the all-in project cost total $16.7 million. This is compared to the original rough order of magnitude at the 11.5, plus the additional over $2.6 million in grant funding that we've been successfully secured for the projects. This leaves a differential of $2.6 million. And we believe that by making this additional $2.6 million in the overall project, the town has been able to realize a more resilient historic downtown by, you know, having, as I described earlier, these more connected water and storm and improvements to the sanitary sewer system. Next slide, please, James. So in Doug's October budget presentation, he spoke to the fact that we had about $17.9 million that was identified as potentially available for the project. But through this successful value engineering process, we'll be able to realize overall project costs over $1 million less than that. As I mentioned earlier, the project costs do include the $1.2 million in contingency, which is 19% of what's remaining in the project of those three elements that I spoke to. And to date, the project has dipped into contingency at a percentage of less than 5%. So, you know, we're tracking well and feel as though moving forward with this level of contingency is a conservative place to be, and we're well positioned to fund this next phase. And next slide, James. And just to summarize, so the project was able to gain significant resiliency through the addition of that 35% more water, storm, and 100% of the sanitary sewer. Again, we've been able to realize over $2.6 million in grant funding to help us make this project complete. And the team, we believe, has been highly successful in our value engineering efforts, reducing the overall cost by $4.7 million for Phase 2. So that's our summary this evening. And we're here to answer any questions you all have, and what I don't have answers to, I'll have everyone help me.
Counselors?
Yeah, no questions, but thanks for a really clear presentation on where we started, how it all ended up, how we got there, the numbers, how it reconciling it a few different ways. I think that's really helpful, and pleased to kind of see where, you know, where we landed. And I think that the value engineering exercise and the, I guess the sharpening of the pencils from all the contractors to get where that's greatly appreciated, because I think where we're ending up, we're getting the benefits that people expect. And the aesthetics are going to be what people expect, and the financials are what we expected ultimately, or hope to ultimately get to, and now we're realizing that. So it's great.
So, Catherine, what the term tooled concrete was listed as a VE choice. Same as stamped concrete, basically.
A little bit different. So if you have noticed the new crosswalks that we have out here, the red crosswalks that have the
Yeah.
cross hatching, that's a tool joint.
Oh, I
And
gotcha.
so there'll be a
Okay.
linear joint so that if one was visually impaired, they can realize.
That's a relief to hear.
Mhm. Good one.
Had a lot of bad experiences with stamped concrete in this valley, so that's good to know. The landscape budget that are cited, that's strictly materials, are soft costs included in another scope? What is included in those landscape numbers?
That's for the new irrigation system and the materials in their installation themselves. Yep. The sleeving will be done as part of the Stutzman contract, but otherwise,
Okay. good
Steve
to
and his
know.
crew.
All right.
Number one, I'd like to say thank you guys. I know this has been a big lift for the whole team. To Stutzman and your whole team, I think you guys have done an awesome job. I drive through downtown probably 10 times a day at least. Everyone's awesome. Your team is working super hard. The stop sign guys are great. Traffic flow is going well. I just can't thank you guys enough. I think it's a huge lift, and you guys have been super professional. My only question is still on the tree islands. What are the distances on those? It doesn't really, it shows it kind of in here. They just still seem so big, and I wonder if there's any, I know they're for the water filtration. I just wonder if there's any.
We have, James, if you go back, we have been able to, so previously they had a more square footprint, and we have,
I see they're a little rounded and
yeah, they're more.
teardrop.
Yeah, that's right. Or, we've even made perhaps updated. No, that's all right. Yeah. So we've teardropped them a little bit so that they're allows for more ease of access. Does anyone else want to fill in the gaps?
We also ran a study.
Will you come up to the mic, sorry?
We also had our civil team run a study of a semi truck coming through and parking, having to back into that center loading light and being able to turn and pull out, and that was a successful study shown on both of those loading zone areas, the one on the west side and the one on the east side.
And can only one truck fit in there, or two able to fit in there?
One semi for each of them, so
Okay.
2 total on Midland, but most of the things that we've seen are
Half semis.
smaller payload trucks, FedEx trucks. Yeah.
And those pointy parts in the diagram, those are mountable, right? It's,
The white part is just flush concrete. Where
Okay.
you see the darker strip is where it'll be mountable curb.
okay, it is, so even the dark is, okay, so there's some.
And the mountable has benefits of snowplow operations as well, to be able to get snow into those areas.
You know what might be instructive is to actually use some traffic cones out there and stake out where those planter islands are, and then sort of go through a real live test and see how these guys can maneuver in and out. And
We talked about that, and that was something that Stutzman brought up. One of the downsides of that is just we don't have the dimensions in this space now that we will. And one thing that's interesting is right now we have 2 vehicular travel lanes that are 11 feet and then a 9-foot center loading lane. And in this condition, we're actually going to have 12, 12, and 12.
okay.
So there'll be more space, although for people to make that movement. I think that's something that is hard to understand. People assume that it will be the same width that exists today.
Are there actual turning templates for these kind of, okay, so you guys have worked that? Okay.
Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate everyone's hard work. It's been
thanks a
awesome to
lot.
see.
I would second that. Thanks, everybody, for doing what you've done.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Motion?
Well, I did actually, just to be clear, this, if this is approved, then it's a March start?
Late February, early March would be the goal.
Okay.
Mayor, move the town council adopt resolution number 41, series of 2023.
Second.
This is a significant sum of money. I think we better do a roll call.
Mr.
vote on
Mr.
this
Mayor.
one. Before we vote, I just would also like to acknowledge the Stutzman team and design team, Connect One, and everyone that's worked long and hard on this. And excuse me, I just think everybody at this table really believes this represents the best future for our downtown. And I think it's going to be much more comfortable for pedestrians. We're going to have improved outdoor dining, and it's going to be a wonderful public gathering place and a really vitalized downtown. And so we're all committed to thinking about the next 40 to 50 years, and that's what's motivating this vote tonight, I'm pretty sure. So.
Mr. Mayor, this is not a public hearing, and there was an opportunity for comment earlier, but I didn't know if you wanted to check and see if anybody had any comments on
Let's do
this.
that before we vote.
Yeah.
This is, let me explain this. This is not a public hearing, so this is a resolution, doesn't require a public hearing. But given the audience and the intense interest that the community has had in this, I think we'd all be pleased to hear if anybody wants to address council or offer any thoughts or recommendations relative to the pending vote here. So, nobody? That's,
Mayor,
okay, yeah, Pam.
just to acknowledge, you had previously acknowledged letters that had come in, and we had a late arrival also from Marjorie Hiltz.
From whom, please?
Marjorie Hiltz.
Oh, okay, great. Well, time has come to vote. So we have a motion and a second. Pam, please call the roll.
Absolutely. Okay, let us begin with Elise Huddle.
She recused herself.
Oh, I'm sorry, she recused herself, I apologize. Ryan Slack,
Yes.
Bill Kane,
Yes.
Dieter Schindler,
Yes.
David Knight,
Yes.
Angela Anderson,
Yes.
and Glenn Drummond.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Oh, and then we have.
Best of luck, guys.
We got one more.
We're all pulling for you, I guarantee you.
We got one more.
Resolution, sir. 42.
This is for the landscaping.
Resolution 42
Oh, 42.
is the second part of this section.
We were looking for the champagne there, I think.
Not yet.
Resolution number
Just kick it in
42
there,
is a
I think
resolution
we're
of
all
the Town
behind
Council of Basalt, Colorado approving contract for Midland Streetscape Project Phase 2 landscaping.
Mayor,
Entertain a motion.
town council adopt resolution number 42, series of 2023.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Thanks a lot, guys. Really
thank
appreciate
you,
it.
everybody.
Nice job.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, way cool. This is the. Biggest public expenditure. Or maybe not, maybe the railroad. So. Continue on here. So, it takes us to,
7E.
7E, public hearing and second reading of ordinance number 22, series of 23, ordinance of the Town Council, Town of Basalt, Colorado, vacating water line easement and approving an easement agreement for a new water line easement at 124 Swinging Bridge Lane. Basalt. So this is second hearing. Yeah, second reading, I'm sorry. James.
Yeah, thank you. We have Glenn Rappaport here this evening representing the applicants.
So,
Pam and
he wasn't here at the first reading.
No, he's
got roped
representing
into it.
Rosenfelds, who own the
Guilty.
property. So this is a public hearing and second reading of an ordinance that would vacate a water line easement and dedicate a new water line easement at 124 Swinging Bridge Lane. The background is that when the new water main was installed on Swinging Bridge Lane in 2021, the service line locations changed, and as such, The service line that was running across the 124 Swinging Bridge Lane property to the adjacent property on the west side was abandoned, and there were new service lines that were installed from the new main across the driveway of the 124 Swinging Bridge Lane property, as you can see here, and those go to the adjacent property to the west. And so the property owners, the Rosenfelds, would like to vacate the easement that was around the vacated water line. And then in exchange, they would like to, at the town's request, provide a new easement across their driveway area, as can be seen here in the exhibits, for the new water service lines that go to the adjacent property. So basically, this is a cleanup of the easements on the property based on the new water main that was installed in 2021. Staff supports the proposed agreement. We've got the exhibits that were done by SGM, which is why we continued it the last couple meetings since first reading, so that we could get the exhibits in a surveyed form. So the council approved the ordinance on first reading, and staff would support approval of the ordinance on second reading. It is a public hearing, so staff would suggest hearing any comments that Glenn might have on behalf of the applicants, then taking public comments. And if council is comfortable with the ordinance and the agreement, council could approve it on second reading.
Glenn, good evening. So would you like to make any additional comments?
I'm only here because the applicants are out of the country.
Oh, I see.
And, it's second reading, so
Okay.
I don't have anything prepared.
Fine. Any questions, comments? This is a public hearing, see if anybody is wanted to call in. Anyone in the audience? I think Rick or the chief want to comment on this. With that, any questions?
I just have one quick question. James, do you expect this to come before us again from other property owners? Because it looks like it runs adjacent through, you go back to that other example.
Yeah, let me go back to just a second here.
Because obviously it goes through the other properties. If you look to the right and left of the top example.
Yeah, so this water line goes to the adjacent property, so they wouldn't need an easement there. There could be the potential for this water line to come back on the adjacent property for another easement. This request on 124 Swinging Bridge was initiated by the applicant or the property owner here, so staff could work with the adjacent property owner to see if there's potential for an easement on this property.
Mayor, I move that town council adopt ordinance number 22, series of 2023 on second reading.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Pam, please call the roll.
Did we complete the public hearing? I'm sorry. Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
We didn't close it, I guess.
I guess that's what I was seeking. David Knight,
Yes.
Angela Anderson,
Yes.
Glenn Drummond,
Yes.
Elise Hoddle,
Yes.
Ryan Slack,
Yes.
Bill Kane,
Yes.
and Dieter Schindler.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Hey, next item is item 7F, public hearing, second reading, ordinance number 23.
Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn. That was very persuasive.
Charge double.
Public hearing, second reading, ordinance number 23, series of 23. Ordinance of the Town Council, Town of Basalt, Colorado, approving Holy Cross Energy's installation of underground electric lines and equipment on the Lions Park property, 101 Midland Avenue, Basalt. James?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a public hearing and a second reading of an ordinance that would allow for the overhead electrical lines that go from Lions Park just behind the caboose, as you can see here, across to back behind Alpine Bank. to be undergrounded across a portion of the Lions Park property. And as noted at the last meeting, per the franchise agreement that the town has with Holy Cross, the town council is required to approve of any undergrounding that happens in town parks or open space. We did a similar ordinance for the undergrounding of utilities on the Tract 5 open space in Willits a couple months ago. So this is similar to that. The ordinance would permit Holy Cross to underground the electrical across this section of Lions Park, as you can see here. There is extra conduit that is being installed by Holy Cross that is a part of the Midland Streetscape project, and that would satisfy the shadow conduit 1 dig ordinance requirements that we have. And so staff supports the proposed undergrounding. It's been town policy to try to underground any electrical that we could in the past here. And so staff would recommend approval of the ordinance on second reading. As I noted, it is a public hearing, so staff would suggest taking public comments and then providing council discussion. And if you're comfortable with the ordinance and the undergrounding, you could approve it on second reading.
Thank you. Anyone like to address council calling in? We have no one in the audience for public comment. No callers. So I would open the floor to any questions from council.
Since I missed this on first reading, just to clarify, are we only considering the question of Lions Park?
Yeah, because the rest of it goes across private property, so the town's purview is really the Lions Park for the franchise agreement.
Okay.
Mayor, I move the town council adopt ordinance number 23, series of 2023 on second reading.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Pam, please call the roll.
Absolutely. Let's begin with Glenn Drummond,
Yes.
Elise Hoddle,
Yes.
Ryan Slack,
Yes.
Bill Kane,
Yes.
Dieter Schindler,
Yes.
David Knight,
Yes.
Angela Anderson.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Last order of business tonight is item 7G. It's first reading of ordinance 24, series of 2023 ordinance of the Town Council, Town of Basalt, Colorado, amending the 2023 budget and providing for a supplemental appropriation related to various revenues and expenditures. So Doug, can you just give us the highlights on this
Yeah,
one?
highlights are on the exhibit on your packet. You want to look at really Exhibit A, page 2 of 2, breaking out the various elements of revenue and expenses that we're adjusting here with this amendment to. Just to refresh your memory, originally approved 23 budget is listed there in the first row. We did amend this budget in June for a few items. It was a net add. This is a minor adjustment to the negative. It's principally grant revenue within the construction fund, putting those in the right year. Interest on our earnings that we've been harvesting with our excess capital. And then we had the tree farm, which we talked about a couple different times. It was unexpected revenue, so we're adjusting the budget for that as well. We also took down sales tax revenue and special improvement fees, which relates to building permits. We took that down by a total of $350,000. And then we also took tap fees down $85,000. Net, between amendments 1 and 2 is still an add of $300,000 to the good. So that we're budgeting now a consolidated loss of 18.3 versus what was 18.6. So this is first reading. Any questions on this? This is really housekeeping, just truing up our numbers through 3 quarters.
It's nice to see the amount of interest you've managed to get us
Yeah.
by your investments.
Been a nice, been a good year for it. So I think this, but we had some good economic news, right? Inflation was calmed and the market was way up, right? So now the rates are starting to come down. So it cuts both ways.
Yeah.
So But we have locked in, that, as you remember, we locked in our $4 million or so of our general fund, our rainy day fund. We did extend our maturities on that, so we're playing it both ways.
Mayor, I move the town council approve ordinance number 24, series of 2023 on first reading and set public hearing and second reading for November 28th, 2023.
Second. Moved and seconded. Pam, please call the roll.
Absolutely. Let us begin with Elise Hoddle,
Yes.
Ryan Slack,
Yes.
Bill Kane,
Yes.
Dieter Schindler,
Yes.
David Knight,
Yes.
Angela Anderson,
Yes.
and Glenn Drummond.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, with that, I think that concludes our work here tonight. Congratulations to council and staff, particularly staff for getting phase 2 put together in a timely fashion and rather efficient budgeting fashion as well, so that's great work, and I really look forward. I think we got great work ahead, so.
I want to also extend a thank you to Pam
Yeah.
for putting together amazing council meeting schedules
I know, right?
and being literally to the minute.
Right.
That was
And that
good.
is awesome. I think you've really dialed these in, and it's,
Oh, well, thank you. It takes a village. You know, these guys have to kind of conform to that, so.
well,
And we don't.
it's super helpful and helps with planning.
And I'd like to say thanks for everybody for serving with you. This is my last in-person meeting. So, but it's been great. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Glenn, likewise, you will be missed, my friend.
Yeah.
You have been an enormous help on this council.
And on post.
So we would all like a little opportunity to talk you out of this.
Yeah, I hear you on that one. But thank you all, staff included.
Thank you. It's not gonna be the same without you. I miss you a lot.
Appreciate it.
You use the best swear word.
Okay. Is there a movement to adjourn?
So moved.
Everybody adjourned. I think everybody's a little sort of like stunned here.